webinar briefing on the 21st meeting of the Chemical Review Committee. My name is Mario Jarto. I work as an agricultural officer for the Rotterdam Convention Secretariat at FAO. Today's session will walk us through the purpose, structure, and agenda items for the 21st meeting of the Chemical Review Committee. And after that, my colleague Kei Ono will brief you on the upcoming meeting of the POPRC Review Committee of the Stockholm Convention. The Chemical Review Committee, also known as the CRC, is a subsidiary body of the Rotterdam Convention, and its core functions include reviewing notifications of final regulatory actions submitted by parties to determine if these notifications meet Annex 2 criteria, evaluating proposals for listing severely hazardous pesticide formulations against Annex 4, Part 3 criteria. Another important function of the committee is recommending chemicals for inclusion in Annex 3 of the Convention, which then triggers the prior informed consent PIC procedure, and also drafting decision guidance documents for chemicals recommended for listing. These guidance documents are intended to support parties to make informed decisions on future imports of chemicals that are subject to the PIC procedure. In the case of the regulatory actions notified by parties to the Convention, that applies for parties that have adopted a final regulatory action, that is to ban or severely restrict a chemical at the national level, and that regulatory action is notified to the Secretariat in writing. When the Secretariat of the Convention has received at least one notification from each of two prior informed consent regions regarding a particular chemical that it has been verified to meet the requirements of Annex 1 to the Convention, that information and notifications will be forwarded to the Chemical Review Committee for further review. In the case of the proposals for severely hazardous pesticide formulations, is for any party that is a developing country or a country with an economy in transition and that is experiencing problems caused by this type of formulations under conditions of use in its territory. And they may propose to the Secretariat the listing of such formulation in Annex 3. The committee is composed of 31 government-designated experts from 5 UN regions, and the meetings of the committee are open to observers, including parties and other stakeholders to the Rotterdam Convention. The 21st meeting of the Chemical Review Committee will be held in person at the headquarters of FAO in Rome, Italy, from the 23rd to the 26th of September 2025, with pre-meetings scheduled the day before, that's on the 22nd of September, where intersessional task groups will meet to conclude their work. The meeting of the committee will be chaired by Ms. Noluzuku Gwai from South Africa, and the meeting will be held in English as per the terms of reference of the committee. The final registration deadline has been extended until the 31st of August. So if you wish to attend the meeting, please do so by this deadline. Additional details for the meeting are available on the dedicated webpage for this meeting, which you can see at the bottom of this slide. All practical, logistics, and other information, including the meeting documents, are available on this website. To prepare for the meetings, you might want to take a look at the following documents, which are already available on the website of this meeting. You have the provisional agenda, which outlines the main items to be discussed during the meeting. You also have an annotated agenda, which provides a detailed explanation for each item listed in the provisional agenda and references to supporting documents. This will help participants to prepare more effectively by understanding the scope of each discussion point. Then you have the scenario note, which contains a summary of the objectives and tasks of the meeting, as well as a document containing the tentative schedule, which includes day-by-day breakdown of the various sessions, the time slots for each agenda item, and the estimated allocated time for the various discussions. The schedule may be adjusted as the meeting progresses. And on this slide, you can see the provisional agenda. As you can see, it's quite a busy schedule for this next meeting of the committee, which will start with some opening remarks and organizational matters, including the adoption of the agenda. We will also hear some of the outcomes of the recent Conference of the Parties of the Rotterdam Convention, in particular those issues that are relevant to the work of the Chemical Review Committee. You will also hear an update on the rotation of the membership of the CRC, and then you will start with the key technical items, including the preliminary review conducted by the Bureau on the notification of final regulatory actions, and then that will be followed by individual chemicals that are subject for review at this meeting, which includes 19 chemicals. Those are new chemicals for which notifications were received over the last year, but also chemicals that are carried over from previous meetings of the committee for which agreement was not reached. In addition to notifications of final regulatory actions, the committee will also review proposals for the inclusion of severely hazardous pesticide formulations in Annex 3. And there will be also information on the planning for the meeting of the CRC in 2026, other matters, followed by the adoption of the report and the closure of the meeting. Before going into the several chemicals that will be subject for review at this meeting, I would like to mention the work that has been conducted intersessionally by several task groups. These groups play a very important role in the preliminary review of notifications. Only CRC members are parts of these task groups, and they work intersessionally through several steps led by a task group chair and drafter. The group will draft an initial report for those notifications. They will then collect comments from members of the committee, and then there will be a number of steps in which there will be a revision and posting of the task group report online to collect feedback from all members of the committee as well as from observers. The comments collected for the final draft of the task group reports will be addressed during the pre-meetings that are scheduled on Monday, 22nd of September, and these pre-meetings are also open to observers. Once the pre-meetings and the task groups conclude their work, they will finalize the report and prepare it as a conference room paper that will serve as a basis for the discussion once the official meeting of the committee starts on the 23rd of September. But of course, this is just a preliminary review conducted intersessionally. It will be at the meeting that the members will have an opportunity to discuss in detail the different chemicals that are subject for review at this meeting. All the information related to the task group work is also available in a dedicated webpage that you can see here on the slide. All the task group reports are already uploaded for your review, and information regarding the work conducted by the intersessional task groups is also available in detail in the CRC handbook, also available online. On this next screen, you can see what is the approach that has been applied by the Bureau of the committee to prioritize work in advance of its next meeting. As you saw already from the provisional agenda, there is a heavy workload ahead of the committee. So in advance of that, not all notifications were subject to in-sessional task group review. In this case, the main criteria for prioritization was the response given in the notifications, in particular to question 2.4 of the FRA form, which asks whether the final regulatory action was based on a risk or hazard evaluation. If the answer to that question is no, usually that notification will not be subjected to in-sessional work. However, the Bureau applies some flexibility, and if it determines that some notifications might merit going through in-sessional review, they will also include that in the task group schedule. A summary of the Bureau's preliminary review is also available online. You can see the link to that document at the bottom of this slide. For this next meeting, there were two notifications that, although the question 2.4 was marked as a no, we will go into those details later on during the presentation. The Bureau considered that the notification had some information that merited going through in the sessional review. Now we begin with the notifications of regulatory action, new ones that were received and that will be subjected for review at this next meeting. First, we have methylparathione. We have it under the classification of as pesticide. There is already a notification that was submitted by the European Union and that was already reviewed at CRC 1, where the committee agreed that it met all the criteria of Annex 2. The notification was submitted by Brazil. It was subjected to in-sessional work and a report is available. If the notification from Brazil is found to meet all Annex 2 criteria, the CRC will consider making a recommendation to the Conference of the Parties for its listing, now having, if that is the case, two notifications from two different pre-regions meeting the requirement. It's also important to mention that methylparathione is already included in Annex 3 in the category of severely hazardous pesticide formulation. However, if there is a decision to list methylparathione under the pesticide category, having a broader scope, this listing would replace the current one as SHPF. Another new notification is for the pesticide dichlorobos. This is a review notification from the European Union that was already submitted for the last meeting of the committee. However, the EU replaced that notification and submitted a new one for which in-sessional work was conducted, and the in-sessional task group report is also available. Then also chemicals that have new notifications of final regulatory action include chlorothalonil, which is again under the category of pesticide. There are notifications from the European Union and from Costa Rica. Both of them were subjected to in-sessional work, and the respective task group reports are also available on the website. We also have phenamifos, another pesticide. Notifications were submitted by the European Union and from Mozambique, and the in-sessional task group reports are also available for your review. And then we have methiocarb, which is an insecticide. where we will have notifications that were subjected to sessional work from the European Union and Mozambique, and for which task group reports are available as well. Continuing with new notifications, we have diazinon, again under the category of pesticide. The Secretariat received notifications from 5 parties from 2 different peak regions. From Europe, we have notifications from Bosnia and Herzegovina, the European Union, Serbia, and Turkey. And from the African region, we have a notification from Mozambique. In this case, only the notifications from the EU and Mozambique were subjected to in-sessional work, and the reports are also available online. Then we have another pesticide, methomyl. There are notifications from 3 parties from 2 peak regions. From Latin America, we have notifications from Chile and Uruguay. And from the African region, we have a notification from Mozambique. In this case, the notifications that do have in the sessional work are for Mozambique and Chile. And finally, we have fipronil. There are notifications from 2 peak regions. From Africa, we have Cabo Verde, Chad, Gambia, Mauritania, Niger, Senegal, and Togo, which are members of the Sahelian Pesticides Committee. And the members of this committee take decisions together on the registration of pesticides on a regular basis. Therefore, the notifications submitted by these 7 parties all relate to the same final regulatory action. And there is also a notification from the European peak region, one from the EU, and another one from Turkey. Based on the prioritization approach applied by the Bureau, which I mentioned before, it was only the notification from the 7 SEALS members that underwent in-sessional work, leading to the present meeting, the upcoming meeting of the committee, and the task group report for these notifications is also available. Then we have notifications of final regulatory action for chemicals that were on the agenda of the last meeting of the CRC in 2024, but were not considered due to the heavy agenda at that meeting. This is dicofol under the category of pesticides. There were already 2 notifications from the same peak region, European region, one from the EU and one from the Kingdom of the Netherlands, that were found to meet criteria of Annex 2 at earlier meetings of the committee. At the next meeting of the committee, there will be a review of notifications from the Latin American Caribbean region, namely Chile and Peru, and one from the European peak region. Those are from Switzerland and Turkey. However, there's only a report available for the notification from Switzerland that underwent in-sessional work. Also important to mention that dicofol is a chemical that has been listed in Annex A to the Stockholm Convention. And if the upcoming meeting of the CRC is to conclude that the criteria of Annex 2 are met for the notification from Switzerland, do consider that the other 2 notifications that were already agreed to meet the criteria by the committee are also from the same peak region, that is from Europe. So no further action is expected for this time. Then we have a number of notifications of chemicals that were taken up at previous meetings: benzoate, profenophos, prothiophos, and quinalphos, all of them under the category of pesticide. These notifications were reviewed by the committee at its last meeting. But further to the discussions held by the committee, they decided to defer the discussions until this next meeting, seeking additional information from the notifying party. Since then, the notifying party, Malaysia, has responded to this request for additional information, which is available as supporting documentation together with the notifications, and this will be further reviewed and discussed by the committee at its meeting in September. Continuing with chemicals that were already considered by the committee at previous meetings, we have 5 chemicals that for which no consensus was reached. We have carbaryl and chlorphenbifos, and then ethion, methidathione, and thiodicarb. At CRC 20, the committee could not reach an agreement on Annex 2 criteria for the notification from Mozambique, and they decided to continue the deliberations at CRC 21. Additionally, the committee requested specific information from the notifying party, and since then, Mozambique has responded with that information, which is also available in the supporting documentation. In the case of carbaryl, there is also a new notification that was submitted by Serbia and will be reviewed directly at the upcoming CRC meeting. And then the committee will consider the inclusion of severely hazardous pesticides formulations in Annex 3 to the Convention. There will be a discussion on 3 formulations that were initially discussed at the last meeting and for which the committee did not reach an agreement. So they were deferred for this next meeting. These are for cypermethrin emulsifiable concentrate 10%, cypermethrin emulsifiable concentrate 35%, and emamectin benzoate water-soluble granules 5%. These are proposals submitted by the Laos People's Democratic Republic. During the review of these formulations at the last CRC meeting, the committee considered that it would be important to conduct in-sessional work on reviewing the SH proposals, in particularly to look at the incident report forms that are used to submit these proposals, and mandated the committee to revise the human health and environmental incident forms, as well as to look at the collection of examples of SHPA proposals that are contained in the CRC handbook. The report of this international group is now being finalized, and it will be available shortly for your review. And this will also be part of the discussion during the technical items of CRC 21. Under other matters, since the last CRC 20 meeting, there have been some members' replacements, but in particular for this meeting, the committee will need to identify an interim chair for the meeting to be held in 2026, as well as the replacement of outgoing bureau members. The term of office of 3 bureau members, including that of the chair, will end on the 30th of April 2026, and it's expected that at this meeting the committee will elect those new bureau members, including from the African, Latin American, Caribbean regions, and to identify one of the Bureau members as an interim chair that will eventually be confirmed by the Conference of the Parties at its next meeting. There's also an agenda item of other matters, which is about an update of the list of substances covered by the listing of P4A, its salts and P4A related compounds in Annex 3 to the Convention. Noting that these compounds are also listed in Annex A to the Stockholm Convention, although there is a slightly different definition than under the Rotterdam Convention. The indicative lists under both conventions have been consolidated into a single table indicating the relevant convention for each substance. So this will also be another update at the upcoming meeting. We'll also hear what are the planned activities to facilitate effective participation in the work of the committee, including for the upcoming members that were recently appointed by the Conference of the Parties and that will start their term on the 1st of May 2026. And you will also hear what are the expected intersessional work planned for the next year in advance of this 22nd meeting of the committee. And on this slide, you can see what is the tentative schedule for the meeting. We will start on Tuesday morning. On the first session, we will have, after the opening of the meeting, the organizational matters, a review of the outcomes of the 12th meeting of the Conference of the Parties that are relevant to the work of the committee. And then we will start with the technical work, covering during part of the Tuesday morning as well as in the afternoon, the review of the new notifications of final regulatory actions with expected work by contact groups after plenary, that is in the evening of Tuesday. The technical work for new notifications will continue on Wednesday morning, and we expect to start already in that morning with the discussions for the proposals of SHPFs. And in the afternoon, there might also be time to start considering the notifications of FRAs that were not concluded at previous CRC meetings. The same applies for Thursday, where we expect also to cover some of the carried over chemicals, while the afternoon of Thursday will be mainly dedicated to the work of the contact groups. Given the busy agenda for this next meeting, if the committee considers that additional time is required for discussing the new notifications, that might mean that some of the carried over notifications, there will be not enough time to discuss them at this meeting. And if that is the case, they will be again deferred for the next meeting of the committee. Then by Friday, after hearing from the outcomes of the different discussions of contact groups, we will have a discussion on other matters, the planning of the 22nd meeting of the committee, and with the closure of the meeting coming on the afternoon of Friday, including the adoption of the report. And that is the last slide. So thank you very much for your attention. We will come to questions at the end of the next presentation. And now I hand it over to my colleague, Kay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mario, for presenting the briefing on CRC. Now I will introduce the 21st meeting of the POPs Review Committee. Welcome to all the participants to join in this briefing. The POPs Review Committee is very similar to CRC. It's a scientific subsidiary body of the Stockholm Convention, tasked to review chemicals proposed for listing in Annexes A, B, and or C. And the process related to this review is provided in Article 8, with information requirements and criteria set out in Annexes D, E, and F. It also undertakes other technical work as assigned to it by the COP, and consists of 31 government-designated experts from the 5 UN regions. The meeting will take place in the same venue as CRC in FAO headquarters from 29 September to 3 October 2025. There will be an online pre-meeting on 15 September from 1 to 4 p.m. Central European summertime. The link to this meeting was just sent to all of the pre-registered participants so far last weekend. The registration has been extended to until this weekend. So if you register from now till the end of this week, you will receive the link to the pre-meeting a little bit later. The meeting will be chaired by Mr. Peter Dawson from New Zealand, and the information on the meeting as well as all of the documents can be found in the website of the Stockholm Convention. The registration for the meeting will start at 8 a.m. on Monday, 29 September, and there will be an orientation session for the incoming members and the current members in the morning. Before the start of the plenary session in the afternoon, this will be the official opening of the 21st meeting. There might be additional event, because we have received quite a number of requests for side events. So there might be some slots already allocated during the Monday morning or lunchtime to have this opportunity sharing information as a side event for POPRC 21. So even if the plenary session is from the afternoon, we encourage you to already come to the venue during the morning session. A more detailed schedule, including side event schedule, we will share it with the pre-registered participants in due course by email. The plenary hours for other dates will be from 9:30 to 12:30 and 2:30 to 5:30, and it will be in the 6 UN languages. Contact groups will meet in the evenings and when there is no plenary, in English only. The provisional agenda of the meeting can be found in document number 1. And as you can see that although the chemical for consideration would be just only one, the agenda is packed with other technical work to be considered by the committee. An annotated agenda, document 1/add1, will be available soon. This document will provide you with the information on which document to look at per each agenda item. And then a scenario note prepared by the POPRC chair is available as INF1. The tentative schedule of the meeting is in INF2. So the morning schedule is still, we are preparing for the orientation session for members and possible side events during lunch break or a bit earlier. So please take note of the emails to be sent to pre-registered participants in coming weeks. The official opening of the meeting will be from 2:30 p.m. on 29 September. And the meeting will first consider adopting the agenda and agreeing on the organization of work. Then, during the Monday session, the committee will consider the draft risk profile for polybrominated dioxins and furans and a mixture of polybrominated and chlorinated dioxins and furans. We are planning to organize a reception that evening. We are still fundraising for the organization of the event. If anyone is interested in supporting or contributing to that reception event, please let me know, as we do not have the funding officially budgeted in our meeting. And then on Tuesday morning, we will discuss rotation of the membership, including on the information of the incoming members appointed at the previous COP. And then the committee will review the outcomes of the COP12 decisions as they relate to the work of the POPRC. The second technical item that the committee will look at is the evaluation of the continued need for PFOS as provided in part 3 of Annex B. Then in the afternoon, the committee will consider another review process that relates to the use of PFOI for the production of PFOB. This is about PFOA listing in Annex A. And then it will also consider the process for reviewing MCCPs pursuant to paragraph 2 and 12 of part 13 of Annex A. So this has two different kinds of reviews for MCCPs. And then on Wednesday, the committee is scheduled to look at the draft indicative lists of substances covered by the listings of long-chain PFCAs, PFOA, and PFHXS. Another technical work to consider is follow-up to the report on POPSIM products and articles and enhancing the submission of information pursuant to Annex F. I will explain a little bit further about these agenda items in my following slides. And then the final technical item relates to global monitoring plan for newly listed POPs. So when there are no plenary sessions, there will be contact groups in English only. And then the plenary on Friday is for adopting decisions as necessary. And this will be followed by consideration on venue and dates of POPRC 22, and then the work plan for the intersessional period. Item 8 would be other matters, and then the meeting is expected to close in the afternoon of Friday, 3 October. So the first technical item, consideration of the draft risk profile for polybrominated dibenzopyridioxins and dibenzofurans and mixed polybrominated chlorinated dibenzopyridioxins and dibenzofurans. These chemicals were proposed by Switzerland for listing in Annex C. As these are unintentionally released chemical, the consideration will not relate to Annex A or B, or that relates to exemptions in this consideration. POPRC 20 concluded that the proposal satisfied the Annex D screening criteria. So at this meeting, the committee is expected to decide whether these chemicals are likely, as a result of their long-range environmental transport, to lead to significant adverse human health and/or environmental effects, such that global action is warranted. This is a very important statement to define whether these chemicals are POPs or not. And depending on this conclusion, the committee is to agree to invite Annex F information from parties and observers and develop draft risk management evaluation, or to set the proposal aside. So what are those chemicals, the PBDDFs and PBCDDFs? As you might know, that chlorinated dioxins and furans are already listed under the Stockholm Convention in Annex C as initial 12 chemicals. They are unintentionally released chemicals, and these chemicals now under consideration share similar properties and structures with their chlorinated counterparts, but they include bromine atoms, which influence their environmental fate and toxicity. So further information about these chemicals you can find more in document number 2. The next technical item is the evaluation of the continued need for PFOS, its salts, and PFOS-F. The working document is available as document number 3, and there will be an INF7 available soon that sets out the terms of reference, draft terms of reference for conducting this evaluation. As you know, PFOS is listed in Annex B to the convention, and every 4 years, the COP conducts the evaluation. So this will be the 4th evaluation to be undertaken by the committee. The committee is expected to agree on the terms of reference for conducting the evaluation and to invite parties and observers to provide relevant information. So PFOS was listed in 2009 in Annex B with several acceptable purposes and specific exemptions. And it has the review process specified in that annex. And accordingly, the COP has reviewed the continued need for those acceptable purposes and specific exemptions. And following the assessment conducted in 2019, the COP decided to further amend Annex B to the convention, reducing the number of acceptable purposes to just only one. Currently, only available acceptable purpose is for insect bites with sulframide as an active ingredient for control of leaf-cutting ants, and only two specific exceptions. Those are hard metal plating and for firefighting foam. And with regard to firefighting foam, you may recall that at previous COP, it has decided to extend the specific exemption for firefighting foam for the Republic of Korea, taking into account their request until 2030 for that country. For many of the parties to the Stockholm Convention, the specific exemption period expires on the 3rd of December 2025. Now, the next review process relates to the use of perfluorooctyl iodide for the production of perfluorooctyl bromide for the purpose of producing pharmaceutical products pursuant to paragraph 3 of part 10 of Annex A. This relates to perfluorooctanoic acid, PFOA, and similar to PFOS, there will be a draft terms of reference set out in Annex to INF 8 that will be available on the website soon. So this will be the first evaluation to be conducted by the COP, and the committee is expected to agree on the terms of reference for conducting the review and to invite parties and observers to provide relevant information. So just to refresh our memories about what was PFOI and PFOB, you can take a look at POPRC 13 document, POPRC 13.7/add2. This is the risk management evaluation for PFOA. In paragraphs 99 to 102, there is some description about the use of PFOB in this pharmaceutical application. It is essential to produce porous particles, and there was a presentation made by an industry during the POPRC 13 meeting contact group. I also have that file. If you're interested in reading that further, I'm happy to share it with you. So the information about that application you can find in the risk management evaluation. But at this meeting, the committee is to agree on the terms of reference for conducting the review during the intersessional period between POPRC 21 and 22, so that the report can be finalized at POPRC 22 for submission to COP 13. Now, the third review pertains to medium chain chlorinated paraffins, the chemical just listed at COP 12. In that decision listing the medium chain chlorinated paraffins, it included two types of review. And so under this agenda item, the committee will look at the draft terms of reference for conducting those two reviews. One relates to review on the 3% threshold, and then another review related to specific exemptions. So in INF 9, which will be available on the website hopefully during this week, there will be two annexes, one annex containing one of the terms of reference and the other one, the second review terms of reference. And then because these reviews are expected to take place a little bit later, the first one at COP 14 in 2029 and the second one at COP 15 in 2031, the committee can further consider the draft terms of reference at POPRC 23 in 2027. The committee may wish to invite already from parties and observers to provide relevant information, but this is optional. So the draft decision has a square bracket, and if you think it is premature to take any action right now, there's no need to send such invitation. But the reason why we have this agenda item at this meeting is because the current POPRC members are those who went through the review process of this chemical, have exercised the development of risk management evaluation, addendum to the RME, and also the consideration at the COP. And therefore, both observers and POPRC members still have fresh in their memory about how these reviews went on and why these 3% threshold and the additional specific exemptions required a review by the COP. So yes, in my next two slides, we have the text exactly copied from paragraph 2 of part 13 of Annex A, that states that Note 1 of Annex A does not apply when the summed concentration of the following chloroalkanes in substances or mixtures occurs at the concentration greater than 3% by weight. This provision is subject to review by the COP at its 14th ordinary meeting and at every second ordinary meeting thereafter, with a view to reducing the limit over time. So this is a very important phrase decided by the COP. Note 1 of Annex A states that, except as otherwise specified in this convention, quantities of chemical occurring as unintentional trace contaminants in products and articles shall not be considered to be listed in this annex, which means that a very low concentration of chemical in products and articles, they are not bound by the provisions of the Stockholm Convention. But in general, in Note 1, there is no concentration limit specified, and therefore this specification of 3% is very particular to the case of MCCPs. The next review here pertains pursuant to paragraph 12 of part 13 of Annex A. This is about specific exemptions, and in paragraph 8, it provides that the specific exemptions for the production and use of MCCPs for ammunition, pyrotechnic defense devices to achieve specific effects may be available until 2041. And another one relates to intumescent coating and paint for space and defense equipment and its packaging to protect against extreme temperature may be available until 2041. So only for these two applications, the COP decided that there should be a review process starting at COP 15 and every second ordinary meeting thereafter. And therefore, there will be a draft terms of reference for your consideration. Okay. Now, the item 5E is on indicative list of substances covered by the listings of long-chain PFCAs, PFOA, and PFHXS. You may recall that there was an intersessional working group established at POPRC 20 that has developed the indicative list of long-chain PFCAs, including the explanatory notes that addresses the issue of overlap with PFOA-related compounds. Hopefully those two Excel files, one with track change and the other one, the clean version, will be available on the website during today. So please check our website today or tomorrow. So you can see those indicative lists of substances covered by the listing of long-chain PFCAs prepared by the intersessional working group. And also, Secretariat has updated the lists for PFOA and PFHXS. And in doing so, we have also prepared a draft list for PFOS because there's an exclusion saying that PFOS substances covered under PFOS listing are excluded from the listing of PFOA. Since the PFOS list is the first time you will see, it is not a comprehensive list. It will just list the 96 precursors and some of the salts with a view to further revising it after POPRC 21, taking into account your comments. I would like to also highlight that in the indicative list of long-chain PFCAs, there's a note saying that some of the comments indicated that many of the substances listed as long-chain PFCA-related compounds are actually PFOA-related compounds. And if it is to be only considered as listed and controlled by just only one listing, which is PFOA listing, then those two lists will really needs to be harmonized and indicate these chemicals that are also PFOA related compounds be somehow identifiable. So while there are a number of PFOA related compounds that are included in long chain PFCAs already marked as chemical concerning both related compounds, there are other chemicals that are marked with asterisk for further consideration at POPRC 21. Therefore, we might need to do some of the further updates in these in these two lists, long chain PFCAs and for PFOA. Now, the very interesting agenda item on follow-up to the report on POPSIN products and articles enhancing the submission of information pursuant to Annex F. This was actually a suggestion from the POPRC chair that there is a need to further encourage submission of more comprehensive Annex F information, building on the recent experiences and challenges encountered by parties, especially around POPSIN products and articles. So proposed action is to take note of the information contained in INF14 and consider ways to enhance the submission of information specified in Annex F. And there will be three major main topics to be discussed. So firstly, here is the report on POPSIN stockpiles and products, articles and waste that was submitted to COP12. And I have extracted the relevant paragraphs in decision SC 12.8, where the COP welcomed the committee's report and decided to continue efforts to improve the identification of POPSIN stockpiles, products, articles in use. And also, COP requested the Secretariat to assist the committee in gathering information on POPSIN products. So, considering all this experience and the conclusions from that report, the first topic for consideration is information on uses of and alternatives to chemicals proposed for listing. The chair noted that there is a need for more comprehensive Annex F submissions from all parties and observers across regions, because information on the current uses and alternatives from all regions of the world is essential for assessing exemptions, especially at the COP level, and therefore we would need this information during the POPRC's review process. Another point of consideration is the challenges with new listings, such as UB328, chloropyrifos, medium-chain chlorinated paraffins. They were widely used chemicals, and that highlighted gaps in information on exemptions, continuing uses, and environmentally sound disposal. Another point raised was that we will need more outreach and engagement with industry and government so that we can obtain further information to support informed decision-making by the COP. The second point of consideration is relates to possible control measures and the status of control and monitoring capacity. It is important to understand the regulatory, technical, and voluntary measures, along with national, regional, and monitoring capacity in order to assess feasibility and effectiveness of risk reduction options. In particular, the application of Annex AB Note 2 that relates to articles in use and their trade has raised some questions and challenges when during the consideration of listing of recent chemicals. And so the chair has proposed to collect information from parties as relate how parties are applying note 2 so that it could help enhance further understanding of the situation. The last point is about waste and disposal implications. So this topic came up already several times in the past, and also under effectiveness evaluation committee, that it is important to engage waste-related experts, including from the Basel Convention, in the POPRC process. And so, as you can see here, many POPs remain in products or stockpiles and enter waste streams, and the understanding on how POP content in waste and disposal options situation is in the world would help defining further low POP content levels. So that's the third topic under this agenda item. And you might be all familiar with the form for submission of information on Annex F to the convention. You can find it on the website. And this was developed at POPRC 2 and revised at POPRC 5 as part of the work on enhancing the effectiveness of the participation by parties and members and observers in the work of the committee. This intersessional work at POPRC 5 also developed the handbook. I think, Mario, you might have been one of the chairs of the intersessional working group on effective participation. Yes, so this effort is building on the previous such work stream on supporting effective participation in the committee. The final technical work, I realized that it is already 5 o'clock, so I'll try to wrap up my presentation. This technical work relates to global monitoring plan for newly listed POPs. GMP supports effectiveness evaluation under Article 16, and it is currently at the 4th phase, running from 2024 until 2029. But as the new chemicals are added to the GMP work, it is putting a lot of pressure and technical challenges to parties in monitoring these newly listed chemicals. And also during the effectiveness evaluation and of GMP meetings, it was highlighted that the engagement by POPs Review Committee and other experts would help enhancing the more efficient approaches to conducting GMP. And that is why this agenda item was added to POPRC 21. And you will be hearing some information also from co-chairs of the Global Coordination Group for GMP attending the POPRC 21 meeting. So thank you very much. That was all from my side on POPRC 21 briefing. And now I would like to open the floor for questions together with Mario for anything that also related to CRC. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we will recognize you. You can also write your question on the chat message. All right, so I don't see any hand raised, but just to note that the presentation will be made available to all participants after this session by email. And if you have any follow-up questions, we will be available to respond to you by email. So just drop us some message after the session. And for POPRC, there will be also opportunity during the pre-meeting on 15 September to ask more technical questions. Do you have any hands? Do you see, Mario?
No, okay, I don't see any hands raised.
All right. So since we are a little bit over time and that it seems that we do not have any immediate questions from participants, perhaps we can close this session. And yeah, as I said, we are available for any follow-up questions you may have by email. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.